your phone and you can be working. You can be in different spaces, different contexts, and you can work. And now work, like I said, work is not defined for where we work or in a particular place or building a scenario, but it's how it's designed for a particular set of people, and most importantly, what is to be achieved, the objective of the work, the service to be provided, the end goal. That is the focus, unlike the traditional way of how work has been, of what according to what we know. Now, we can see that technology has been changing organizational structures through the definition of organizational identity. We can see that in the structures. We're no more seeing the interesting bureaucratic structures. Now, structures are more flatter, while you can relate with people on a more informal level. And now, it has also changed the mission, the vision of the organization, where now there's a clearer focus that this is who we are, this is what we want to achieve, this is what we do, and thanks to technology, it makes things clearer. And now it has also influenced the business models. What kind of business model are we using? I mean, there are lots of ways you can see that in companies like Amazon or Uber. You can see that they have a more what's it called? I don't want to use the word autocratic, but a more like a controlled system where people are generally told what to do and how to do things. And then we can see more of digital and human configurations where there are more of human and computer interactions. For example, we have an example from Uber where if you want to book a taxi, unlike before you just go on the road and then raise your hand and a taxi stop, now you're talking to your phone, you're asking your phone, we wanted to make an order. We didn't call anybody, we were just with a digital device trying to make an order. And then when the food is ready, the food gets delivered to us. So these are ways where things have changed, behaviors are reconfigured, responsibilities have changed. So for example, you're in a work environment, you're based on digital technology, a lot of roles now are automated rather. So I mean, because of this automation, I mean, depending on your roles, I mean, people's roles are being defined. Example, in HR, no payroll is now automated. So there's nobody sitting somewhere trying to do a calculation. Meanwhile, there is something, or there's a tool doing that job. And then while you allow the people focus on strategic thinking, strategic aspects of work. And now you can see the reconfiguration of workflow. How do people interact with people? Unlike before, I mean, if you need a meeting, yes, we insisted that this has to be an in-person meeting. Ordinarily, we could have done this on Teams. Okay, we can be at the comfort of our homes, and then we can still meet and then talk normally. But then this builds a gap in interaction, because I mean, you lose some cues. I mean, there's this loss of oneness or togetherness that this physical interaction brings. And then most importantly, the cultural shift. There's a change in culture. So for example, there's if you remember Handy's culture, there's individualistic and collectivity. So now there's increased collectivity. People are more, I mean, they claim that people are more working together, but in reality, I think people are more isolated. Because, I mean, you're rather on your PC, or rather, depending on your role, if you're an Uber driver, you're just in your car, and then sometimes, even if you're driving, some passengers have a chat with you, while others are not just interested. So you just sit there, and then there's this isolation. Then there's power distance. Okay, so this creates situations where people have remained high up there. I mean, it still brings back bureaucratic structure anyway, but people remain high up there, and then people at operational level, operational roles are just trying to do their work to make ends meet. So this is how these technologies have changed organizational structures. And then a case example is with Amazon, where algorithms have replaced supervisors. Now you don't have people supervising people, you have trackers, you have sensors, monitoring movement, monitoring the number of boxes you can pack, monitoring, excuse me, monitoring the number of boxes you can pack, monitoring how fast you can deliver, how fast you can do things, okay? And then this has created a situation where these platforms are used without boundaries, without borders, okay? There is no regulation in a way of control to the use of these technologies. And now that brings up the legal aspect of legal tension. I'm not a legal person, disclaimer, but this is just an interesting aspect to me. And then it has brought about this question that says, just like the prayer said, who is responsible? So for example, in a situation where I mean, there has to be a show of empathy or a show of care, which is associated with the human aspect of things. Who is accountable for this? Okay, and then when these algorithmic management is in system, whose authority is responsible in this situation? So which person can you hold accountable? Who is in charge? Is it that these systems or these digital technologies make decisions for humans and that we are compelled to obey? And this brings these interesting questions. I'm trying to run really quick. And then thinking about the aspects of employment relationships where metrics are bosses, algorithms become managers, where smart contracts are in place. There's bias in automated decisions, in the sense that since these systems hire people, you just like pick up your phone and then say, for example, if you're interested in getting a job in Uber, there's no office to go, just pick up your phone and then say you have a car, your car is registered, you have a driver's license, and then so far as you're able to go through this automated processes, you immediately get hired. Now, when there's a problem, or I know that you have to get a certain amount of rating to stay on the app. If you're not able to achieve that, regardless of whatever happens, you get fired. There's no empathy, there's no sympathy whatsoever, and that's because these systems are controlled by these metrics. And then it brings up another question that says, when these systems are opaque, biased, who's responsible? This takes us back to the initial thought of, where is the place of empathy? We're all humans, we're giving you people, we're providing a service to people, we're not providing a service to machines. So where is the place of empathy? Who is accountable? Okay, so I know that rules, some rules are made to provide regulations or to support setting context organizations, but then when these technologies are in place, I've done a bit of data collection about the use of emerging technologies, and every single person I've spoken to say that there is no laid down regulation on the use of these technologies. So where does that leave us as people? How does that define the future of work? A case example is with Uber and Aslam, where the Supreme Court ruled that the person should the case. I'm trying to remember what happened in the case. Uber was taken to court, and then the court ruled that the Aslam is not an independent contractor, and that Aslam is an employee, regardless of however the person got employed, because there are strict rules and regulations that guide the use of this technology. And then it also brings about legal and policy challenges. What does this mean? Since these technologies are used across countries in different contexts and different ways, different countries have different laws, different rules. Which jurisdiction will apply? So for example, you're a freelancer in the UK, living in the UK, and you're working for a company in Nigeria, and then the platform you're working on is owned by another person in Cambodia. So when there's a problem, whose jurisdiction of law applies? So now we've talked about 3 or 4 countries in place. Whose law applies? So it's really difficult to grasp or hold or say this regulation applies to this context, and that's why I say that localized platform economy is really important. It's best. It's way better if you're able to connect these things to the local context, and then there's someone responsible, there's someone accountable, there's someone you can go to, or there's someone you can lay your grievance to. But in this situation, there's actually nobody, and even if you do, it takes a longer time to get a response, and sometimes you may not even get a response, and then you're just left stranded. So that is one problem. Another problem is an enforcement gap, like cross-border platform governance. So when you're in one country, one rule or regulation in that country works in that country. When you move to another country, that may not be the case. So it means that you need to learn a new context, a new culture, everything all over again. It takes us back to local platform, help me please.
Local platform economy?
Local platform economy takes us back to that context. And now, although there are frameworks in progress like the EU Act, EU AI Act that says, oh, there's certain ways you should use this, and then there's the GDPR and there's ILO guidelines for platform work. Unfortunately, most of this platform work still say that their workers are independent contractors, unfortunately. These rules are there, but enforcement is not possible. There's still a wide enforcement gap, and then because there are no checks and balances, there's no one checking, there's no one following up, so it's really difficult to follow through. And therefore, there's a need of a harmonized global labor framework that everyone is bound to, everyone obeys, and everyone is regulated by. What does this mean for us? That's why we are here. This opens our discussion forum very quickly, and then I'd like us to, first of all, think about our goals. What are our goals? Our goals are to understand the governance challenges which we have listed, and then we're going to identify the synergies and tensions. What are the interplay? What influences? What supports? Or what prevents these challenges, or what could be a possible solution? And then we can come up with strategies to say, okay, this is what I think. In this context, we can decide to focus on a country to say, in this particular country, because I understand that context, this ABC can work. Or we can try this other thing in this context because I'm fully aware of these regulations. This is what happens in this environment, and then we can apply whatever. So I'd like that we quickly think and write